Hello, I'm Grimgrin and welcome to this, the 5th Robocraft Infinity video, in which I talk about Robocraft news, updates, glitches, and just generally ramble about my experience over the last week. And we might as well begin with what has been the largest story in Robocraft for both Robocraft and Robocraft Infinity for the last few weeks ever since they announced it, which is that they're finally getting rid of loot boxes. And just to be clear, I'm saying finally because while Robocraft Infinity only just came out, and so of course loot boxes and that is only just recent, they've been in Robocraft the PC version for a pretty darn long time. I'm not going to recap this planned update entirely because I've already gone into it in pretty large detail in the 3rd Robocraft video, so if you want more of the baseline information of this planned update fleshed out, then check out the video entitled Robocraft Infinity 3 No More Loot Boxes Exploits Big Wasps, which, now that I've read it out loud, sounds like I was trying to say that there was no more big wasps or exploits, but that wasn't my intention. However, regardless, since that video went live, they've given us a bit more information of what they're actually planning to do. So, when they first announced that they were doing this change, they told us that they were doing it in all forms of Robocraft, but they didn't really specify what was happening in which one, so quite a lot of it was speculation as to whether they were talking about some of these changes being for Robocraft the PC game, this is all from a Robocraft PC blog, or if they were also planning to implement it in Infinity. And one of those changes I wasn't entirely certain about was cosmetic currency. I said that it would be kind of lame if they put it in, considering that Robocraft Infinity, unlike the PC version, is not free, but I thought they would probably do it anyway. And, unfortunately, they have chosen to do that. We've received confirmation on Robocraft Infinity's Twitter, where they've tweeted, "We're working on removing cosmetic crates from Robocraft Infinity and replacing it with cosmetic currency. This new commodity will be purchasable from the Xbox One store and allows you to unlock only the cosmetic currencies you actually want, rather than relying on random number generation." And at the end of the tweet, they prompted us to tell them what we think of this, which I told them essentially what I've been saying in the previous videos, in that it's a step in the right direction, but microtransactions in a game that's not free to play will always seem like double dipping to me. And I remain completely unable to see this as an altruistic move from them, because while they're trying to paint themselves as the good guys and saying you can now finally pay for what you want, rather than having to rely on random number generation, the fact remains that that's exactly what all microtransactions were before loot boxes were brought in as a concept, so it's not exactly a mind-boggling breakthrough to be going back to what the entire industry was doing before loot boxes were brought in, and it's not exactly impressive from a consumer standpoint that they left it until the last possible minute, despite a generally negative stance on loot boxes from most of their player base being held for a very long time. Also, apparently Robocraft Infinity is an Xbox X console launch exclusive, and seeing that it's an only online game requiring Xbox Gold, then it's sort of kind of triple dipping, because you have to pay for the game, you have to pay for the Xbox Gold, and then seeing as one of the main drawcards of the game is building vehicles, and a lot of the parts are locked behind a microtransaction, to be able to build all the vehicles you want, you also would have to pay for that. But whatever, I suppose that's the way the world is these days. I guess I'm just complaining that back in my day, you bought a game and you had the game, and then they didn't expect you to keep paying for the game until you grew old and died. So ends the old man Grim rant about how things were better back in the day, and do you remember Pogs? Let's move on. Another thing that this update's going to eventually bring back is daily quests, which will replace the daily logging crates, which is absolutely excellent. But we've received a bit more information about it via the Robocraft, not the Robocraft Infinity Twitter, which tells us that they are coming back, and that completing daily challenges will give us XP and Robits. And on top of this, they even gave us an example of 2 daily challenges that we will conceivably encounter. The hovering over challenge, which to pass, you need to play 3 games with a robot having hover or rotor, and the brawl victory, which requires 1 victory in a brawl. I'm hoping they do more challenges like the latter rather than the former, because they're not exactly challenges if all they require you to do is participate. I think even if the hovering over challenge was requiring you to win 3 games rather than play 3 games, it would be a better deal, but at the very least it's better than nothing, and it's certainly better than loot boxes. I think if done well, re-implementing these daily challenges will be a lot of fun, but I kind of wish they would go one step further, and rather than just giving you 1 or 2 challenges to choose from each day, they just gave you a never-ending list of challenges with increasing difficulty, and when you finish one, the next one becomes available to you. I mean, the cool thing about Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts is there were just so many different challenges in the game that you had to constantly create or redesign vehicles in order to meet the new challenges. But with Robocraft Infinity, with only 2 game types, there's not really much variety in the game at the moment, and not much forcing you to experiment. However, if Robocraft Infinity were to give us constantly changing challenges, for instance, one challenge you have to get a certain amount of kills with a sniper vehicle, and then the next one requires you to capture a certain amount of bases, then you're going to be constantly building and tweaking your vehicles in order to meet these challenges, and I just feel that there'll be a bit more to the game. I don't really see any point from either a player or a developer's perspective to limit the challenges to 1 to 2 a day, especially considering the point of the daily loot boxes were to lure us back in each day, but if the game was just more fun in general, then chances are retention time will increase regardless. So I suppose what I'm saying is daily challenges are an excellent thing, I look forward to it, and I think it's such a good idea to bring them back that I want even more of them. But with all of that said, we've wrapped up the update section of this video, so let's begin talking about the vehicle I was building this week, and also glitches, because they're somewhat tied together. I've been building a Y-Wing because, of course, it's Star Wars month here on Grim and Grin, that's Y-Wing that I've been doing it, and I'm not exactly very experienced with air-based vehicles in Robocraft Infinity. In fact, full disclosure, back when I was playing Robocraft on the PC, I was extremely bad at building flying vehicles. They seem to have made it a lot easier to build them in Robocraft Infinity, and presumably they've probably made it more easy on the PC, but I'm just saying this as full disclosure, because while I think it's a glitch, it might just be because I don't know what I'm doing, because I almost certainly don't. Regardless, I've been encountering a situation where if my Y-Wing takes a huge amount of damage, and I manage to survive the encounter and have my vehicle heal itself, when it's reformed itself, it becomes basically unflyable. When the vehicle is first spawned, and in testing and whatnot, it works great, it's fast moving, and it's even fairly maneuverable. However, once it's taken damage, it just sort of stands on its tail end like a dolphin, and no matter what I try, I can't get it to level off. I don't really understand the logic behind why it would do this, especially considering that with all of the parts respawned, the vehicle is, by rights, exactly as it was before it took damage, and so therefore should handle exactly the same. But rather than handling exactly the same, it presents itself as one of the easiest targets possible, and becomes basically entirely unmaneuverable. In fact, when this happens, it makes the vehicle so very unusable that I've come to just respawning my bot following any survived encounter. I have, after a while, managed to reduce the problem slightly by removing the rudders on either side of the engines, but it's still not exactly great. Regardless, it does seem that this would indicate that the issues with the rudders, but I still don't see why it should do this. Surely it's not supposed to do this at the very least, and I would be interested to hear if anyone else has encountered this. Aside from that possible/probable glitch, the Y-Wing is a lot of fun to fly, even if it has some very obvious weak points and is fairly impractical. It looks good and it's very fun doing strafing runs with it. I'm sure it has plenty of room for improvement, but as someone who mainly makes land-based vehicles in this game, I'm quite happy with how it's turned out so far. I think my favourite moment using it this week was this long drawn out battle between it and a Republic cruiser. And that's about where we're going to bring this week's Robocraft Infinity video to an end. So, as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, I have been and still am Grim Grindle. It is Star Wars month for the entirety of May here on Channel Grim and Grin, so if you like Star Wars content, stay tuned. And of course, feel free to join me on Twitter or the Channel Grim and Grin Discord, the Echo Chamber. Links to both of those available in the description below.